Welcome to All in the Game, everyone. I am your host, Reginald Johnson, and today I have with me Coach Bennie McMurray. He is visiting us from South Carolina. Right now, he is in Lancaster, South Carolina. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you, Reginald. I'm glad to be here.
So, Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Well, I am a 1971 graduate of South Carolina State University. Have a degree in health physical education with a minor in biology. Was an athlete down at South Carolina State. Went down a baseball scholarship. Coached on the high school level in South Carolina, um, 34 years, and in North Carolina for 4 years. Um, been very fortunate as a coach. Always had some great kids and coaches backing us up.
Okay. Well, great, Coach. Well, welcome to the show. And with that, we're going to get started with our first quarter. So, Coach, with our first quarter, let me ask you about how did you first start off playing sports? Were you introduced to it by someone else, or older brother, or cousin, father? Who introduced you to sports?
Yes, my father. We had a little country baseball team there at the church,
Okay.
and we played on what is part of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we started there. Then we got a little bit larger. We one of the went to a pasture. A guy we knew in the area had a pasture. We
Yeah.
moved to the pasture, and then by the time I got to junior high and high school, I played on the high school team.
Okay. So you talking about a cow pasture, right? One of those pastures.
Yeah, cow pasture.
So y'all played in a. Did y'all have to watch out for the
Yes, we
stuff?
did.
Okay, I'm
Yes,
just checking. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So if you slided in home, you could be sliding in something else too, right?
Well, at that time, he didn't have any cows in the immediate vicinity, but at one time it was a pasture. We did some remodeling on my father and a couple other men. They put up little barriers, cut down some trees and some limbs, and gave us a modified field.
Okay, that's good. And one thing about a cow pasture, because I'm from the country too. If those cows are doing what they're supposed to do down there, they had some good green grass, didn't they?
Oh, yes, they did. Yes, they
Yeah.
did. But like I said at the time, cows were not part of that area of the field that we were on.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was a, it was at one time a cow pasture.
Yeah. Also, y'all had some men that kind of looked out for you guys to give you something to do, I guess, in the community.
Oh yeah, well, see, back at that time, our things that we would do were limited, and we were Mount Tabor Church team. So what we would do, we would venture out and play other communities or other church teams.
Yeah.
And on Saturdays, we would pile into the trucks. One of the men that was helping us had a panel van that he
Yeah.
worked in, had his business. So we'd pile in the back of the panel wagon, and we were all over Lancaster County and Kershaw County playing baseball.
Man, that was great. So who helped set the games up? Your dad?
Yeah, my
Or
dad, along with Mr. John West Thompson, and all these gentlemen are all deceased now. Carey Crockett, J.C. Crockett, John West Thompson, just a few of the men who were in the church at that time. And they gave us an outlet. There was
yeah.
nothing to do. And they saw a need for it. So they were really basically ahead of their time.
I'm telling you, with a church league back then, and then they set it up where they get y'all to and from events, and that probably got a lot more young men going to church too because they can play sports.
Yes, it was like I said right there in the church. Starting off, we didn't have uniforms. We played in t-shirts and blue jeans, and we had numbers painted on the t-shirts. But
No.
we eventually moved up. We got uniforms and came to town and played some of the teams in Lancaster who were playing in the recreation league there. But
Okay.
it was a great start from rags to riches, I guess you could put it like that.
Yeah. How were the fans? Did they support?
We had well at that time, just church members, the men,
Hmm.
some of the wives or the mothers would come, but basically it was the men who helped coach the team were there and would spearhead us.
Hmm. So did your dad? Did he play baseball too, or was he in sports?
Oh yes, oh he was my all-time biggest fan because when I first got started, I started at Buford High School in Lancaster County, and then I
Hmm.
went to Louisville High School in Chester County, came to Waddell in Charlotte, and then finished up at Lancaster. I probably can count on one hand the number of games he's missed in all that time. He was my
Really,
biggest fan,
man.
biggest supporter. Yeah.
That great coach. That is a lot of people don't understand the importance of dad being around and showing up at. So you probably was like me when you be at a game, you probably look up to make sure, okay, my dad's there. It's time to play.
Well, my dad and my two brothers were my biggest supporters. And then when I got married, my son, he started following me. He went from water boy to ball boy to film and to girls, and then girls
Okay.
started. He kind of backed
Oh yeah.
away, but once he graduated from college, he was part of that group. They followed me every Friday night, regardless to where we played at.
That's great.
And during my time at Louisville during baseball season, my dad would even ride the bus with
Really?
us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
with that's great. So I guess your dad, he pretty much probably inspired you
Oh yes,
along.
a man who just because of the time
Yeah.
that he lived in was not afforded an opportunity to get an education, even though he was the smartest man I ever knew, just
Hmm.
ungodly common sense.
Yeah.
He eventually went back to night school and got his high school diploma. He was just that he instilled the need for education in all of us.
Yeah.
And he he passed back in December of 90
Okay.
94 years old. But
94.
he was a very influential part of my life as well as my two brothers, and probably a lot of the young men in the community we grew up.
Okay. So he was your dad, you and your brothers, but he was a shared community dad also, right?
Oh yes, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt
Yeah,
about it.
I can tell from what you're saying that you probably had people who came to your house, and your dad probably was that coach, counselor, friend, pastor. I'm gonna get on you sometimes when you need it, but after that, I'm gonna put my arm around you and tell you, son, you're gonna be all right. Was he
Oh,
like
that
that kind of man?
that was definitely done. I've had several guys to say they call him Mr. Mac or
Yeah.
Pop. That he just did so much for me when I was growing up. And it was, I guess that's one of the reasons why I more or less tended toward getting into coaching because he, along with some of my high school coaches, definitely made an impact on my life coming up.
Hmm. And that's important because a lot of times, coach, if you don't have someone to follow, then how you gonna know if you're doing it the right way or the wrong way? And you're gonna be making so many unnecessary mistakes if you don't have someone in front of you who is a trailblazer and lead the road. And all you gotta do is get in your car, put gas in it, don't get in the wreck, and drive down the road. Now you're gonna hit some bumps and bruises along the way, but that's natural. But
Yes, most definitely. And my father was a God-fearing man. In the church all his life, and that's where we were. I tell people I had graduated from college. I was 22 years old,
mm,
and you know how it is. You go out on the weekends, on Saturday night, you party around, whatever. But
yeah,
he would always tell us, and he meant it. I don't care where you go on Saturday night or what time you come in on Saturday night, but Sunday morning you going to church,
that's right.
and we were there. So it made a vast impression on my life.
Hmm. So what was it like growing up in your hometown, other than because I can already get a sense that the community was just there and they were kind of embracing young men. And I'm pretty sure it was the same thing for young women also. It was just a tight knit community. What else was it like being in your hometown?
Well, at the time, schools were still segregated. So I
Uh-huh.
went to Boston Street High School. And again, like I said, we had a phenomenal athletic program. That
Okay.
was the heart and soul of the school. And we had some real tremendous coaches who you earlier said, when you mess up, they straighten you out.
That's right.
But at the same time, it's gonna put an arm around your shoulder and bring you back. And you know why I had to do this, why you did that. They were just good people, good people. Two were still around today that I still call them coach.
They,
That
you're right. Because guess what, coach? You could be 90, I could be 90 years. I told my coach this the other day. You could be 90 years old and I'm 87 or 80, whatever. You still gonna be coach. That's your honor. That's your name. That's who you are.
that's
So
it. That's it. They at Bar Street, like I said, we were a close knit school.
mhm.
Won state championships in football, basketball, baseball, all in the same, and track in the same, which is unheard of.
In the same
And
year?
in the same year,
What?
yes, yes, and unheard of. Um, just good people,
hmm
great teachers. I tell people I've been plenty of places, and the life experiences and the education I got when I was at Bar Street really prepared me for the next level.
Yeah. So that school pretty much laid the foundation of what you did and were currently doing in your life after that school.
Most definitely, yes.
Because I guess you being a segregated school, it was just all African Americans at the school, and it was top notch teaching, best of the best, and you wearing the school's name on your back. So they're going to make sure when you go out in the real world that you're not going to mess up and embarrass the community.
Yes, because at that time, I call them those old sisters,
Oh yeah,
and the men. They knew what we were going to be facing in the real world.
that's right. That's
And
right.
when you came out, when you crossed that stage, and I'm not saying everybody was did super. You're gonna always have some people who just don't do, they just won't do.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the kids who came out of that high school have done well in life. They've gone on to many different fields of endeavor, uh, and have represented Bar Street High School very well.
No, that's great because it's like a tree almost. And when the tree grows, you have many different branches, and then from those branches, then there are more limbs and there are more branches to keep building and building and building. And I guess you always have that school in your heart, in your psyche, probably things when they get hard, you probably can go back to that school and say, okay, what would I do at this school? What would these teachers do? What would coach do? And then you can pretty much kind of figure it out in your head to move on past adversity.
Correct. I can remember some instances when, in my professional career, when things weren't going good with an athlete or with having to deal with a student in class or unruly parent. You go back and you rely on some of these life lessons learned in the past, and it helps you adjust and cope with them. But it was, like I said earlier, um, a time well spent. I don't think it could have been much better.
That's great, coach. So how did y'all won that's 4 sports state championship? What made you say I'm going to play baseball in college? Were you getting recruited at South Carolina? Did they recruit you at South Carolina State?
Yes, they did. I went to South Carolina State on a baseball scholarship, matter of fact.
Hmm.
And matter of fact, the umpires for that state championship game were the head baseball and the assistant baseball coach from South Carolina State. I guess that's how they supplemented their income uh, to do high school sport umpiring.
Hmm.
But after the game, I was going to South Carolina State anyway. I had already been accepted,
Yes, sir.
But after the game, they got with me, talked with me and my parents, and we started conversations. And then one thing moved to another level, and then we accepted the scholarship to South Carolina State.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, right now it's South Carolina State University, but back then it was South Carolina State College, right, Coach?
That's right, correct. In Orangeburg, South Carolina.
That's right, Orangeburg, South Carolina. So, Coach, good first quarter. We're going to go to our second quarter, and then we're going to talk about experience at South Carolina State.